Adrian! Okay guys, so snapping the trunk is this. My opponent ends up checking one of my legs. So oftentimes I'll set it up by throwing slower or looser chop kicks to the leg, or cut kicks, I guess I should say. And the idea is if I can get the desired reaction to get her to bring her knee up high enough, I can then go low and try to get a sweep on that leg on the outside. So if I'm here, she's checking, checking. I come in, I go low, and I sweep that foot out. All right guys, so cover counter is this. My opponent is gonna be throwing a jab at me. We could do it on either side, but I cover the punch out. And the idea is I wanna try to use that momentum there to throw in a short, tight, circular hook across the jaw. So we're here, 1, 2. From another angle, 1, 2. A little slower, so 1, 2. So we're catching a roundhouse kick now, guys, and going to number 2 sweep. So my opponent throws a power side body height roundhouse kick. I'm catching with the overhook here, shuffling out to the side to absorb the contact. And I'm taking my lead foot or my left foot and taking her leg out here with a sweep. So if you want to go a little bit more Senchai style, when you catch that leg, we're here, try to shove forward a little bit just before you end up doing the sweep out. So 1, 2. Ready to rock. All right, guys. So what we're going to be working on is 3 ways to defend the Muay Thai clinch. So the idea is that my opponent has both hands up on the neck like this. And I want to talk about a very simple one, which is called crowbar. Now, even though it's very simple, doesn't mean that it's not powerful. I just need to make sure that I'm watching out for my opponent's knees coming up from underneath. So I get my head postured up. I want to try to turn my partner's head away from them, and I can double up with the hands, shuffling back and pushing to try to break that clinch. So a very, very powerful one. So she's clinched up on me, I'm here. Once this starts to happen, I want to be aware of the knees or anything else that might be happening. She might be starting to neck steer me. So I want to try to get the forearm across and use the same side that they're looking towards. So don't try to get their head turned away like this. The reason for it is I can move her head further with the same side hand. Double up on it, lift your head up, and push away. That's crowbar. The second one that we can do, I call upswim. My opponent ends up clinching me again, and maybe for some reason if they have my head folded down, it might be difficult to get that crowbar off. So I'm going to come between the elbows here and upswim to more of a collar tie or a wrestler's clinch. From the other side, so they have me clinched here, my head's really pulled down. I'm going to try to take my hand, come up, and break that clinch apart and push their face right into the wall. No, I'm joking. And just come up into that collar tie clinch. The third one that we can end up doing from this position is just your standard chop block. So the idea is if someone is reaching for the neck like that, and for whatever reason I'm choosing not to use any counter strikes, so we can use the arms on a single arm or both arms, and we're trying to turn our head away as we chop on the elbow with our forearm like that. That's a dangerous one to practice in sparring, but very, very effective if you can work in combination with your torso rotation and the hit to your arm. Little bit of a tip. It's harder, if she clinches me, it's harder to do that chop block straight across side to side. If you can get to a position where you hit down a little bit, even though it may be exposing you somewhat, it's a much more effective and powerful block. All right guys, so sometimes we make mistakes and we let our opponent get double underhooks on us. If that happens in one fashion or another, I can overhook here, get my hands together and start breaking to try to get that grip apart. If you really have the arm advantage, sometimes you can pass the opposite arm underneath and do a single arm overhook clinch. Regardless of the position that you get there, I guess the idea, what I want to explain here is that we need to have a little bit of proprioception of where our body is in contrast to our partners. So if I'm standing here and I can't see what's going on down at the footwork or the feet, I should know that directly in front of my knee is roughly where my opponent's thigh is. So I wouldn't aim in unless I'm intentionally trying to hit to the inside of the thigh or away, but kneeing straight into that quadricep is very, very painful and a very good way to start breaking down someone's pranciness as they're fighting. So if you can get overhooks and control someone and start firing those knees in straight into those quads, you will slow them down. So we've decided to throw some skip knees. So I'm in the clinch with my partner, pulling the head down, and I'm throwing straight knees, maybe some side knees, whatever your flavor of the day is. When you decide that you're done throwing those knees, try this for a combo finisher. Land your foot back and shove off your opponent with both your forearms, and take a look at where their hands go. If their hands come high, throw a far range weapon low. If their hands go medium to low, throw a long range weapon high. So skip knees, shove off with both your forearms, take a quick glance at where their hands kind of go, strike the exposed area. So next steering, guys. So if I'm in clinch like this, I don't want to have my elbows apart, not just because she can uppercut me or strike up from here. I want to try to keep my elbows in so that it keeps more clamp or squeeze pressure on the neck. Now, if you're much taller and much bigger like I am to poor EJ here, it's much easier to steer someone because we have the height. Just don't get caught in the fact that you think that's going to work with someone your own size. So number one, we got to get the head off axis and pulled forward slightly, and then amplify your rotation or neck steering with your footwork. So if I pull back, I'm going to turn to my right, step back with my right. 1. Step back with my left, pull to my left. 2. That's how you can neck steer on a larger or same size opponent. All right, guys, so checking out off of a kick is a very traditional Thai technique. And the idea is, let's say I throw a teep kick with my lead foot. If I step up and fire that kick, sometimes a counter kick could be coming at me. So I'm going to use my check and check out after I throw my offensive movement. So for example, if I teep and EJ feels it necessary to throw a roundhouse kick at me, so 1, I could have my leg checking as it comes out. What that's trying to stop is any ability for them to use like snapping the trunk or any sweep motion on me. So it's kind of something that's really good to warm up the hips in a class as well. So I could use a teep, and even my partner's just basically standing there to be my striking dummy. If I hit, I practice to keep my knees high and come out. Hit, practice to keep my knees high and come out. If you want to take it a step further, ask them to throw a roundhouse at you. So 1, 2. That's exactly how it should go. So we're going to be doing some strategy for Muay Thai right now. And I don't want this to be like the encyclopedia of how to, but just rather some superficial evidence on what you should be doing or how you should be approaching this. So if I'm working with a partner and either I or they have the longer reach, we have to understand some limitations that are going to happen here. Every time, if me and my partner have our hands up, every time they drop their hand or loosen or anything like that, there's a chance for the longer range person to be able to make contact and not them at the same time. So if we're good at like using feinting or any kind of manipulation or setups like that, you can end up playing a really bad game if you're not really good at countering and slipping from there. So the basic fight strategy to try to fight someone that has a longer reach than you is to try to do the catalyst movement of your combo as a kick. So for example, if I went to throw a jab at my partner and I'm the longer reach, she may want to lean back and throw an inside roundhouse and then come in with some punches when her weight is transferred. So just really simply, if I'm trying to throw my longest range punches, which is really going to be the benefit for the person that has a longer reach, keeping them at bay with your jabs and your crosses, if they can use their legs or their kicks to counter, they can end up setting up really, really well their punches, rather than trying to brawl in or slip in and take the chance at trying to score their punches on me while I might be just holding them at bay at a very long distance. So super simple. If you're fighting a longer range opponent, try to set up your kicks and then your punches. Here's what we're going to talk about now. If you're the longer range fighter fighting against a shorter range opponent, if that person has a lot of experience, they're going to be really good at stepping offline and cutting angles to get to the inside. So something that you can do is keep them at bay with your straight punches like this, and then at that point, if they go even further out of range, you can start using your long range kicks to try to keep them at bay. The only time where we're going to start getting in trouble with a shorter range opponent is if I throw a punch and they duck in or they move in somehow like that and they come into their zone. So I guess what I'm getting at here superficially is if you're the longer range fighter, try to keep them at bay, keep lots of lead hand movement, lots of fast punches happening there to set up your power punches, and try to stop them from getting inside where they can start landing effectively.